Right. It is straight up bottom of the hour. It is 69 degrees, 22 minutes after the hour on WSAN radio. We have Joseph Lee from Impact Counseling and Consulting Services on board with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, doing pretty good. And it's just it's I feel like saying it's one of those days.
Yeah, I hear you. It's definitely
Back in the days.
definitely a hump day for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just say it's one of these days, and it just feel weird how this weather's going back and forth. Back, let me cut on my camera. How the weather's going back and forth, back and forth. We don't know where this is spring or summer. I left winter out because we get a taste of winter for like 30 seconds, then it's over with.
Yeah, well, I tell you, we can't really complain down here. On the cold, we can, but then you look up to places like Michigan. What's up to Grand Rapids? How you doing? And other places, my hometown, and they're still getting slammed up there with snow and
Yeah,
other things. That would be a national disaster down here in San Antonio. But yeah, it's you got to keep a jacket and a pair of shirts in the trunk down here, boy. You
and
don't know what you don't know what
yeah,
the weather's gonna do.
yeah, and up north we keep a blanket and an extra coat.
Yeah, there you go. See, so I'll take this, I guess, versus that. But you go outside and saying, you gotta almost say, stop playing, because you don't know what's going on. It's cold in the morning, is spring or summer in the afternoon. You don't know what's going on, man. So it
Well,
is what it is. I'll take it.
yeah,
Just being alive to see another day is a blessing, right?
yeah. It's funny. After your shows all the time, that's when people start they're texting me and asking this question, asking that question. So I reply back to every text. I say, if you got a question to ask during the show. It's almost like they scared because I think some of the deal is people gonna think they know who they are, and I never mention their names. You know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's the way that their question is structured, and I'm gonna ask this question. So how I'm gonna ask it? It was one, and I sort of feel for the lady. Um,
Mm-hmm.
her question was about her husband. She said point blank, "I think my husband is bipolar, because he says there's nothing wrong with him, but when we talk, he's like two different people in the same conversation we're having." And she said, I don't know what to do with him. I said, well, you got to take him to get help. He says he don't need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was saying, in a situation like that, does she commit him? I said, I can't answer that question if you commit him or not. Um, I sort of said, I'll listen to the show. The only thing I can suggest is if he have any family, any brothers and sisters like that, get them involved. You know, that's the only thing I can say to help push him because you don't know what's going to push him over the edge. And I hate to read about you. And I didn't know how to answer that question to her. And I know she's listening. I just suggested get family members involved.
I don't know, Ron. In terms of people with personality disorders, I want to come at it a different direction. I would look at it as if you feel abuse, that it's an unhealthy relationship. You have to set boundaries. I mean, even as a therapist, I have to set boundaries
Yeah.
in counseling sessions and things of that nature. And sometimes people are going through something and they need a minute.
Yeah.
So so just asking, hey, are you okay? Is something bothering you? They say no, then you just have to read the situation and sometimes give a person a minute, to reset or think about what's going on. We typically, when I say we, I'll say people of African American descent or Black folk. A lot of times we wait to the last minute, right? Or with health issues, period, be it physical or a mental, and there's a stigma that a lot of times goes with mental health that I don't need no help. I can just push on or give it to God. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pray or you shouldn't allow. In fact, I very much encourage prayer, but sometimes you have to talk to somebody. And I know we've been conditioned as, young men or boys, hey, just, suck it up, keep moving,
Yeah.
just keep going. See, the problem with just sucking it up and keep going is just like any physical ailment, the longer you let something go on and on and on, it gets worse. So just like a physical ailment, a mental health ailment can get worse, and then it'll start manifesting itself in behaviors, and that might be partly what maybe the person is going through. That's asking that question. Person may be going through something, try to try to ignore it. Now it's manifesting itself in behaviors. And there are diagnoses of bipolar. There's borderline personality disorders. There's histrionic. So sometimes maybe educate yourself. Go online, look it up, say, does this sound familiar? Yeah, and then I don't want you to try to diagnose somebody, but at least you can understand what's going on, and maybe some ways to try to not activate triggers and all that. But if you're in a situation where you can't function, you can't talk to someone without them blowing up on you, or being, and this is ongoing for a long period of time, then at some point, you've got to make some choices, about your own mental health and well-being, you know. So,
Yeah.
and that's now I don't know about having them committed, right? Because I don't know if that's a committable offense, just having a nasty disposition or mean, but if it transfers over to emotional abuse, verbal abuse, or physical abuse, then yeah, you've got to protect yourself. You should feel safe in an environment, right? Especially if it's somebody that you're living with, your partner in life. You need to be able to feel safe in that environment.
Yeah. The other question, boy, we had two or three that came in. One of them was about bullying.
Mm.
This lady texted me and told me, and if I'm right, in Minnesota, she said that her daughter is constantly bullied, and they went to the school authorities, and nothing is really going on. And she said that she feels that her daughter is falling into a depression, and now is at the point that she doesn't want to go to school.
Hmm.
And she just wanted to know, is that natural when people get bullied, and how depression sets in?
It's definitely not natural. It happens commonly in schools that kids bully, but there is a process, that is very important. I always say that when you're dealing with bullying, doing nothing is never a good option, because usually bullies, get worse, not better without intervention. So if your child is being bullied, there's a process that you should definitely contact the administrators at the school, set up a time and appointment, go and let them know what your child is going through. If you don't get a result, don't let it go. Keep going. Go back. Give them a chance to respond. Be as detailed as possible of where the situation is happening. What's happening. Is it in passing time in class? From class to class? Is it in certain classroom? Is it in gym? Is it in band? Wherever, and give the administrators and teachers a chance to address the situation. If that doesn't happen, if it don't address, then you keep going up. Every school has a superintendent, and you can actually request a meeting with the superintendent about the issue, and that and document what's going on, how many times you spoke to the administrators, and what actions have been taken or not been taken, and if it's been effective or not. But there are some very serious laws out there against bullying, cyberbullying, all of that. So don't, just let your child suffer, because once it goes over to depression, then that can be a dangerous area where a child can and possibly harm themselves, or as you've seen in many times, and unfortunately with these school shootings and other situations, they can explode and harm others, or a combination of both, right? Harming others and then harming self. And just, even if it doesn't matriculate to that. Hopefully it won't. Every child has the right to go to school in a safe environment. And that's the school's responsibility to provide that. But if they don't know what's going on, then, their hands are tied, right? So you can't, not, you can't expect them to do anything if they don't know about it. But if you've contacted the school, keep contacting the school. I'd say maybe 2-3 times. After that, if there's been no, change, then it's time to go up to speak to the counselors, speak to the administrators, and say, hey, what can we do to fix this situation? And there are some things that can be done. So a quick, solution that I've done is if the child is being bullied in between class periods, then sometimes, you can have the child leave a little early before the bell rings to get to the next class. They can avoid, being in, get to the locker room a little early if they're in gym, and then getting out before everybody gets into, if it's a bus situation, then you have to identify, to the bus driver what's going on. The child can maybe sit up front where the bus driver can keep an eye on things a little closer. So it's some logistical things you can do as well. And then track it. Once these changes happen, see if the situation has gotten better. But, but the one thing is, if the principal administrators know what's going on, then, then these interventions are in place. If it still continues, then you take it up further to, the superintendent if need be, and possibly go to a school board meeting. I let them know what's going on with your child. So if it's happening with your child, it's probably happening with other children. And, you can't just be passive,
Yeah. This is not a question. This is something I read this morning, that people think bullying is only in school, in high school and stuff. This court awarded this lady over $1 million for her boss bullying her at work.
Yeah.
She documented everything, had everything down, went to court, and they lost, and the guy ended up getting fired. I mean, why would you wait to now? First of all, I'm gonna say this: if you're gonna start bullying somebody at work, you better watch out. You don't know when they're gonna snap. It'd be on the news again. But this person documented everything, had everything down. Everything is documented down to the last minute, I would say, from what I was reading. So bullying just don't stop at school. It continues on. You even got neighbors who bully neighbors. All that's going on. It seems like they find the weakest link and start picking on that person. My advice to that is be careful who you pick on. The way things are going nowadays.
Well, you said it best. I really don't have to say too much with that, right? I mean, that she did the right thing, or he did the right thing, whatever is going on. Bullying is very common. You'd be surprised at how often bullying happens, intimidation happens. But what I recommend people do, the person that called or wrote in did exactly what I recommend: document, document, document. Every time somebody says something inappropriate, asking you to do something inappropriate and then threatening you or whatever the case may be, you have the right to work in a bully-free environment, or they call it a hostile work environment. If you can establish that you're in a hostile work environment and it's unjust, now if you're messing up consecutively on your job and someone is trying to reprimand you and going through the legal process and they're documenting, then you might want to take a look at what you're doing. And if they're unreasonable, you can document what changes you have made. Always journal, document. If it feels wrong, document it, and then look back and see, okay, this happened. Why did it happen? Was it rational? Meaning that, was there a valid reason for this person to say or do whatever they did? And if they didn't, make sure you put the date and time, the situation that happened, what you did to try to rectify the situation. Did you say anything? Did you say, hey, you know what? I'd appreciate it if you don't talk to me like that, or whatever the case may be. And then if they don't, you may have a EO office, an equal opportunity office, a EO. Once you get, a decent amount of And I'd say maybe, 3 or 4 of those incidents that you can document. Then you may have to reach out to EO and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I've done to try to rectify the situation, and it's still continuing, right? And trust me, once they know that somebody's documenting something, changes can happen, and sometimes it can result in you getting a nice paycheck. Sometimes it can result in somebody getting fired, or could be a learning experience that this is not the correct training way to be treating an employee. But you could go through a process too. I mean, because bullies like to operate in groups sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes the supervisor would try to embarrass, put a person out there. So you got to stick to your guns. But if you got that documentation, and even after you filed a complaint, keep documenting. If they come back and say, okay, you forward it to your equal opportunity office or human resources, and they still continue to bully, you keep documenting, right? Don't blow up on your supervisor though, because what happens a lot of times then is you then become, well, this person is insubordinate, or this person, is acting out, right? So you don't want to give them any ammunition. Take the information and you just document it, and then know that eventually you're going to be able to do something with that information. Or the equal opportunity, there's lawyers you can go to, and some people I know a lot of people in my inner circle and outside of my circle that I work with that are bullied. And you know what, just document, and you see the result of documentation. But if you don't write it down and you try to go by memory, that's not good, right? Because you forget details, you forget who, and by documenting date, time, situation, and who also witnessed it.
Exactly.
All those things are relevant, and can make a big difference. So yeah, bullies, again, if you do nothing, just like in the school situation, it usually gets worse.
Yeah.
And you probably aren't the only one. If you're going through something, there's probably somebody else that's gone through it. And believe it or not, a lot of times bullies have a history. And you might be the one that says, okay, this is enough. You still, this person is still doing this behavior. Because see, if you're working for a company, they've invested in you. They've invested training, they've invested resources, and they don't want to lose people because of faulty leadership. And sometimes there's problems in leadership that have to be addressed at a higher level, but they have to know what's going on.
I know the years of being a supervisor, what I would do if I got 10 people up under me, I automatically create a folder for each one. And whenever I talk to them, or they do something wrong, or they do something good, I put it inside that folder. Everything. So when something comes up, I say, oh no, hold on, wait a minute. Boom, on this date, you did this, and then we talked about this already. I had everything documented, and every last one of anybody was up under me, any text up under me, there was a documentation on them, on everything they did, our weekly meetings, and everything would be in there. So I had one situation that came up. It was so funny. It was not funny at the time. This one particular instance, this guy was in an accident. It was his fault. So he turned around and said, Mr. Gordon, I'm just go ahead and just quit. And I said, okay, just give me a letter of resignation, and because I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, because I couldn't tell him, because I had to talk about it. So he turned around, quit, and then filed unemployment. So you know how the hearings with unemployment, I had to be on the hearing with him. It was just complete opposite of what he discussed to me about. He told them I forced him to write their resignation letter and did all that. I said, oh, no, 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 no. Open up the folder. Here's our conversation. This is what happened and everything. So that, I knew documentation came into play right there, because I had everything documented and everything. I don't know what happened after that, but to me, I said, how dare that person turn around and just flip everything around? So that's the reason why you need documentation sometimes.
Yeah, documentation works both ways, right? I mean, trust and believe, if you're being documented, even if they call you in the office, hey, we're going to have this meeting, they're documenting, what's going on. You got to look at it, right? That means that, they could possibly, as you've done before as a supervisor, they can use that against you down the line if there's some further action being taken. But that documentation works both ways. So if you're documenting what a supervisor is doing is inappropriate, then that can be used against them, right? So you're never powerless in a situation where you're being bullied or when things are done wrong. As a therapist, I take notes. Occasionally, I think, out of the few hundred, if not thousand people I've worked with, I've got some people that, don't like when you put that mirror up and they just have to see themselves, right?
Yeah.
And you've got people with borderline personality disorders, histrionic personality disorders, bipolar history disorders, narcissism, so, those people, unfortunately, sometimes make it to leadership positions, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be an employee that's in that situation. These are serious personality defects and serious personality disorders and mental health issues. And sometimes you have to document that stuff, and they'll see it completely different, because that's part of that disorder. They can't see what they do wrong. They can only see what they perceive, you doing wrong, or however they want to twist and manipulate the situation.
Yeah.
Don't get in that fight, because if it's your supervisor, you're going to lose. You're always going to lose, right? But if you document the time, the situation, whatever, it's hard to deny a frequency of maladaptive behaviors for whatever reason, right? So if it feels wrong to you, it might be. Document it, and then also it allows you to go back and look at the situation and say, okay, am I being unreasonable, or that person being unreasonable?
Yeah.
And also you got to understand something. In the military, I've had to learn this, right? Not everybody's going to like you. It's just real. There's personality conflicts. If you're an overachiever, if you are someone who's very ambitious and your supervisor is not, that can rub them the wrong way. There's this book out there called 48 Laws of Power. I highly suggest everybody take a look at that book. It's some ways of how to deal with leadership and systems. And it's a way to kind of gauge how to be successful when you're dealing with a situation as well. And it's almost like a guide in how to deal with, imbalances of power and people that are manipulative. Gives you some tools on, okay, hey, how can I deal with this situation a little different? So take a look at it. 48 Laws of Power. It's one that definitely helped me in the military and in life, and dealing with systems and things that, maybe have a little imbalance that you have to deal with, right?
Right. I have this one book that we read, it's about 10 years old, called All In. And what it basically does is saying, in the job force, is when you there, is when your boss comes in saying, hey, this is what we're going to start doing right now. So you have to learn how to be all in on it, even though you disagree with it. It shows the techniques how you can be all in and doing things with it. And in the workplace, a lot of people, all right, is he crazy? We tried that 10 years ago and it didn't work 10 years ago. Well, maybe they turn around and structure it different and trying it over again. So it's a pretty interesting book by being all in, because that's part of the problem in workplaces right now, that you have half the people say, okay, the other half's going to fight it.
I mean, look at our country. You know what I'm saying?
Oh boy, was that a good segue?
Perfect segue. Hey, I don't know how we do this, man. We are not scripted, by the way. this stuff just flows, man. We set it up, right? But you got to look at it. I'm looking at this. Had to bring it up, the Trump investigation, and you got half of the country out there protesting. Half of the people protesting or believing that the previous president should be incarcerated, and a lot of people still buying this hook, line, and sinker, right? Because it's your interpretation, and also it's who you hang around, what circles that you hang around, and unfortunately, a lot of people it takes a skill to be able to think independently. There used to be this thing called critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah.
Where people, really look at the facts, look at what's going on, read in between the lines, But that's funny. I love that expression, read in between lines, because a lot of times people don't read, or they just read the social media posts, or they read, and they take that as valid or news or whatever. But I think part of the problem that we're saying is that people don't read, they don't think, they just go with the flow, right? I heard a commentator say, well, a lot of the folks in government right now, they're not really staying in too much because they want to see who's going to come out victorious. They want to be on the winning side, so they don't want to say anything because they don't know how this thing is going to shake out.
Yeah.
But that's not what leadership is. Leadership takes a stand. And good leadership takes a stand against wrongdoing. And I was looking at, old Marjorie Green, that she has a t-shirt out right now that she's recommending all of the Trump supporters, the MAGA supporters, wear an enemy of the state shirt and hat. You can look it up. She's trying to make money off the dissension. And she's saying that if everybody, Trump gets indicted, which looks like maybe happening soon, that they go scorched earth. What does that mean? You got to be careful of the words that you put out there. And, they just put it out there. They know how they can be perceived. So they're trying to welcome the worst possible scenario, but then try to flip it into something good. As far as I'm concerned, if you consider the enemy of the state, right? You are, that's treasonous. And there's a whole lot of people right now waking up on the wrong side of the law because they're following somebody who has, felt like they could be above the law. Well, when justice starts to roll down, it's going to be a whole lot of people to get their feelings hurt. And I don't know. I haven't seen Trump or the Republican Party doing too much of the people that are being convicted for going into the Capitol.
Yeah.
So, you just got to let it play out. But a lot of people, they do things and they're like a spoiled kid. When justice starts to roll around, they want to cry like babies. They want to try to point the finger. No, it was you. No, you went into that Capitol building. You showed up with that groupthink mentality. You let that guy cheer you on, and you went down the street, did what you did. Now there's some consequences. Now, maybe not for him yet, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. And I think I know how it's going to shake out. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when them indictments start rolling out.
Yeah,
they aren't doing all this work for nothing. They're not doing all these investigations for nothing. Michael Cohen was in there talking for a long time to not be saying nothing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But still, it's amazing how many people still choose to believe what they want to believe, regardless of the facts. So we talk about those alternative facts all the time, right?
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. One thing we talked about off air, me and Joseph, like one thing we both agree on, that we always reading up on something.
Yeah.
So
always. I'm reading right now as we talk.
I was reading too, because I wanted to bring this point out that somebody asked me the other day, was I woke? And I told, yeah, I'm awake. Yeah, no, are you woke? I said, well, give me the definition of woke. They couldn't. So this had this one lady on TV to give the definition of woke on what it really means. And she stumbled, and she wrote the book. The book itself doesn't have the right answer in it. So I took it among myself. Yes, Ronald Gordon. I took it among myself to say what woke is. After reading everything about woke, it's a reset. I look at it as a reset they want to do on how we think, what we read, what we see. They want to reset everything back the way they want it. They want to cut out certain things of history that we should not know about. So I was talking to Joseph the other day. I said, woke sound like to me trying to reset America to back where they want it to be.
Well, are you saying woke is that, or the people that are against being woke is trying to do that?
Well, I'm saying woke is that, because you listen to the DeSantis, He's talking about we're going to take this out of the reading curriculum. We're going to take this out. We're going to start doing this. They want to take over Disneyland board right there. And then we got another one in Georgia that the House passed a bill that's stating if they don't like the prosecution of like this with the voter fraud there, they could fire the prosecutor and put somebody else in.
Wait, and it's funny because I'm interpreting that a little bit different. I'm interpreting that as the people that are against being woke are trying to roll the clock back. Because if woke is, to me, from what I understand it to be, is trying to awake people to the social consciousness issues, things that are going on with law enforcement, things that are going on in the LGBTQ community. And there's people that don't want people awoke to, awake to understand what other people are dealing with, right? So, so what they're doing in places like, well, here in Texas, Florida, they're trying to devalue the educational process of or educational tools that bring up things that are uncomfortable for certain people, right? Because if you know about the history of this country, if you know about the history of oppression and of segregation, of economic exploitation, if you're awake to that, then you might require some changes be made. So those people that don't want people awake because they don't want to deal with the deficiencies of the country or the deficiencies that have been placed on other people, they don't want that talked about, right? Because obviously a lot of people are conscious. Like look over in France right now. They're trying to change I believe the retirement age 2 years, and they're tearing the country up, right?
Oh,
because
man.
they're awake to what they're trying to do, right? Because the system over there is they work less. They have a system that they work less hours, and they have leveraged their country to say, hey, we're going to work less hours, but we're going to do more during those less hours so that we can have this time off. They understand work-life balance, and they see the country going, okay, wait, we used to give you retirement at 62. Now we're going to roll it back to 64. Well, wait a minute. That's a shell game. I've been working all this time. So all those people that are 62 that thinking about to retire 61, now they saying you're going to have to make me work 2 or 3 more years, right? Yeah. Depending on, what this law says, right? So, yeah, they're fighting. So when we do the same thing in this country, it's a pushback, right? It's a pushback. And look at who's pushing back. If you look at histories of countries that have stopped people from educating themselves or banned certain books, those are usually more dictatorship or authoritarian style governments that are limiting what you can read, limiting what they want you to expose yourself to, and they try to spin history a certain way. Freedom of speech and freedom to read and understand certain things, that's one of the cornerstones of our country. So when you have any leader trying to curtail what you can read or to access or to put their value on education, who are you? Who are you to say what somebody can read about or what the value is of education? The last thing some of these fools need to not be doing is reading. That's the problem right now. They're not reading. They don't understand the history and the context in which some of these happen. And I know they say, well, we want to stop dwelling on it. That had got nothing to do with me. Well, you got to understand something. There are systematic effects that happen. And if you don't understand how a person got to where they're at, then that's why you look at a situation and go, oh, it's their fault. They didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But you don't understand the systems that are in place to keep a person in a particular situation. You don't understand why certain people look at law enforcement the way they do. Well, what about the experience that they've had that are documented? If it wasn't for, and I know that a lot of police officers get a bad rap, a lot of them do, but unfortunately, when you have these things continuing to happen that are being proven to be overreaches of power, there's a history of it, and you got to think about it. Think about all the things that we've seen recently in law enforcement that are inappropriate or should have been done differently and have resulted in death. Remember those? What about those times when they weren't caught on video for years?
Yeah.
And it was people that knew, how did it become a thing? No matter how much money you have, no matter what neighborhood that you're in, you have to carry yourself a certain way, because if you get pulled over or the police get behind you, there's a certain psychological process that we go through. Where did that come from? And you can look it up. We're starting to see now that trauma can actually be passed down generationally. You can come with the preset knowledge of trauma from previous generations. That's what studies are showing now. So if that can be passed down, then shouldn't the education be passed down on how we've dealt with it before and how we've overcome at least somewhat? And let's just admit, the gentleman on the back of my wall here, Dr. Martin Luther King, said, "We shall overcome." We didn't yet. We're still fighting.
Yeah.
Some of the same battles they were fighting in the 60s and 50s, 40s, and possibly the 30s. We're still fighting those same battles. But now some of that stuff can be televised because of the efforts of some of the woke efforts. Black Lives Matter, which is, people have a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement. But you know what? It's kind of an obvious statement. Sometimes you have to be reminded that Black Lives Matter, because oftentimes they don't seem to matter as much in this country to their counterparts. How many people have just been released? They just got a guy to release from prison after 36 years? Wrongly accused? How many other folks are in the system that way? Black Lives Matter, but they don't seem to matter as much in the courtroom. They don't seem to matter as much in law enforcement. They don't seem to matter as much in terms of real estate. Same house, same neighborhood, different value. Look at the studies. So Black Lives Matter, regardless of what people feel about it, they're making a statement because Black lives have been devalued for so long. Sometimes you have to put that message out there. And I don't know, I like things that stir the pot a little bit, as long as it's got some basis for it, So that's my 2 cents. Yeah, am I awake? Yeah, I'm woke. Yeah. I'm 100% woke, and I'm waking up more and more each day. Yeah. But I'm reading, and there's some things that obviously we need to tighten up with the movement. Not everything is racism, but guess what? A lot of things are. Yeah. A lot of things are, and you got to know the difference. Sometimes somebody might not just like you, right? And that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're racist just because they don't like you. Look, there's some people that look just like you that may not like you.
Oh yeah, we know that.
But that doesn't mean that they're racist. You know what I'm saying? It just means, but there are some people that are still on the plantation. Let's just call it like it is. We got a lot of Herman Cains out there. Rest in peace. I guess that weren't awake at all. From what I could see. We got, your Clarence Thomases out there. Somebody put an uncle in front of that Clarence a lot of times, but they're out there. No. They aren't awake, or whatever you want to call it, right? Right. But you got other people out there, young folks, and I'm encouraged by the younger generation. Yeah, they got some issues, right? But one thing that they aren't is passive.
True that.
That's the one thing they aren't is passive. Now, what I would say is, make sure you provide some education. And then isn't that funny? That's the one thing that they're trying to stop a lot of folks from getting is education. They want to be educated the way they want them educated.
Exactly.
I'll say put the information out there. Let them develop those critical thinking skills. Let them read other than social media. That's trying to get so many hits and likes and all that type of stuff. and not having the content or the context in the situation, and, you got so many spoiled folks that, unfortunately, young folks that they want things their way without understanding the context of, how you get things your way. You got to pay some dues. You can't, start at the top, and then work your way up. That ain't how it works. There's some lessons you got to learn down here to get up here.
In order to move,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
right.
And there's a lot of people that a lot of these youth, they think they're gonna, become an influencer immediately. They're gonna, go not make the have to make the do the work to get to a certain level. Look, just because you get to the top or you start off high don't mean you're gonna stay there. But if you work your way up, you know how to get up there.
Yeah.
So you got to know how to fight. You got to learn how to develop your passion, educate yourself, invest in yourself, take some bumps and bruises sometimes, and that's how you get up to the top. So when somebody tries to knock you out of your position, you know how to fight. Like, look at it. Life is a heavyweight bout, right? Mike Tyson back in the day, whew, you don't want to stand in the ring with him. Why? Because he got tested. He got tested. And that's why, he was able to stay on up there. Now, I'm not saying everything he did was right outside of the ring, but in that ring, he was something to deal with.
That's right.
He was something to deal with, but he got tested along the way. Now, yeah, he made some mistakes and he, had the affinity to biting ears occasionally, you know what I'm saying? But he knew how to survive. Now, sometimes, he did some things wrong, but my point is, he didn't start as the heavyweight champion in the world. He had to do some training. Somebody had to invest in his gift, and he had a lot of things against him. And maybe if he would have got a little more mental health help early on, maybe some of those things wouldn't have matriculated up to his, out in his behavior and up to where he was at with him. And maybe things would have been different. So that's why it's important to understand what's going on inside of you. It's important to understand how your environment has affected you, because we've all had those supervisors like, how in the world did you get here?
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Man.
Yeah. How in the world did you think that was okay? Right.
Yeah. Better yet, how did they get that job?
Yeah. I mean, you've seen it, right? Because they've
Yeah,
carried something that got them maybe through the hood, but in work, it's no good. That's a bar for you. That's what them young people, they drop them bars. Right? So yeah, you can't do everything everywhere. You got to know how to drop certain things off, right?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you need to keep that edge though, because I tell everybody, hey, I got a lot of alphabet behind my name, but don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? I know how to shift gears if I need to.
Yeah.
And some of you know about how I can get, you know what I'm saying? If you come at me wrong, sometimes you gotta, as they say, I know that saying, you don't have to get down in the mud just because, take the high road. Well, guess what? Sometimes you gotta get a little dirty.
What did old grandmothers used to say all the time? They are so kind and everything. First they said, look here, don't have me lose my religion. So when they say that, it's on.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. Old school, they maybe did some things that we would frown on today. But one thing that you weren't going to do is disrespect anybody.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and an elder, we've lost that. We've lost a lot of that. And a lot of these kids now don't understand the importance of respect, because that elder is somebody you may need down the line.
Mm-hmm.
They maybe have something that you're gonna need down the line. That's why you need to respect that person, right? Because here's the thing: if you don't respect the elder, then you're not going to respect the right person in the street. They don't have any respect for your life. So you got to understand how important it is to respect people that deserve respect. And we had that. I think we've lost a lot of that, right? We've lost a lot of that. I see a lot of youth out here, and I see them disrespecting their parents. I see them disrespecting, and I get it. I don't mean a child shouldn't have a voice, but there's sometimes you have to tell your child, hey, this isn't a two-way conversation. I'm telling you something. I don't want to hear a response right now.
Yeah.
You know, I have to tell my daughter that sometimes. My daughter is very intelligent. She can sometimes surprise you with her intellect, but sometimes wisdom is more important than what you are saying in that particular moment in time, because there may be a time I need to tell you something and I don't have time to go through a debate, because of my older sense of reality and situational awareness. I may have to tell you, hey, we need to go now. Well, I don't want to go. Why I gotta go? You don't have time for that. Not in the climate that we live in now. There's people talking about trying to initiate some type of civil war in vague terms. What does scorched earth mean? When Marjorie Greene says, let's go scorched earth, or when people are calling for, if Trump gets indicted, it's going to be riots. It's going to be, it's going to be all this stuff going on. There's mentally ill people out here that take that as a code. Oh, it's time for me to act up. It's time for me to maybe, act out and do something stupid.
Well, what happened on January 6th, when a lot of them realized they got caught up in the moment, they admitted it. They got caught up in the moment and they said, that's not me. Why did I do that? You got caught up in the moment. So now they're in jail right now, in prison right now, and they're saying, why did I do that? We discussed about that son that turned his daddy in.
Yeah. And you know what? We talked about that. And, isn't it a shame that some of the youth have more sense than the adults?
Yeah.
It's going to be real uncomfortable on the holidays in that house. I'm telling you. But I'm telling you, it's a sad thing. But, when they say, you remember that saying back in the day? I don't know if they say it more, but, a lot of parents will say, if Bobby go jump off a bridge, are you going to do it?
Yep.
Well, apparently it's a whole bunch of people that were willing to jump off that bridge because they did, and now they got to deal with the consequences. But there's still people willing to jump off that bridge.
And there's still people out there, and they realize they think they got away with it, and the FBI is knocking on your door, arrest you. To this day, they're still going out arresting people for January 6th.
Yeah. Hey, and rightly so. Because we talk about it all the time. Had it been some people of color, January 6th would have been a lot different.
It'd have been a bloodbath.
We wouldn't, we joke about it all the time. It's really not a joking matter, but trust me, I don't think we'd have made it up the street. I'm just being real. I don't think we would have made it up the street. So this double standard about justice, this double standard, look, got to pay the part. You do the crime, you got to do the time. And that's something we know about. And half the time for us, even if we don't do the crime, we got to do the time for somebody else, or worse, but you got to understand that's a part of this country's history, this tradition. But we have to understand that we still have a double standard in this country, and we have to act accordingly. Not everybody can get away with what everybody else can do. And the one thing about this Trump situation is it keeps demonstrating it time and time again. Please think about if Barack Obama would have done 1% of any of the stuff that Trump has done, where do you think he would have been?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hard to argue that fact. We joke about it all the time, man. If Barack Obama would have did this, man, they would have cut the lights out in the White House. they would have went up, man. Please don't. He couldn't even wear a tan suit without it being a problem.
That was the dumbest thing they brought up.
Yeah,
he got on a tan suit.
And we got this man paying off prostitutes, calling up, asking for a specific number of votes, intimidating people, acting a fool, and he's making America great again. Well, that's great. I don't know what great is. Maybe great really means making mob rule or a gangster rule rule. Maybe that legitimate. Is that what great is? Because that's what I see.
Yeah.
And man, what about the RICO laws? Is that can that apply? There's something that I do. If you do crime across state lines,
I think
where's that at?
I
Yeah.
think somebody brought that up already because I think they brought the New York district attorney brought that up about the RICO crime and stuff and what they're doing. And for if I'm reading this right, is Trump and his minions, which talking about his son, his daughter, will not ever be able to do business in New York City again. So to me, you need to indict them on everything. You know, they swindled a lot of people.
You know, it's a precedent being written. See, that's the problem when somebody as visible as this escapes a law. We've always said it. We've always said, oh, there's two sets of laws on the books, one for people of color and one for other folks. Now, and then let's add a little more caveat to it. People not of color with money or power influence, right?
Yeah.
The justice seems to be delayed significantly. The other thing that's amazing is, you know, I've never seen this before. Only in this situation about old 45, he's being possibly brought up on charges. What is it that Congress is doing saying that they need to see the evidence? When did they become Trump's attorney?
That's a good question.
How is it that somebody that has nothing to do with the case, has no legal authority over the case, is now demanding to see evidence? That's that entitlement we're talking about.
Yes.
That's that stuff right there. So McCarthy, keep playing, bro. You can find yourself with some charges too. And I think we need to look at that. Look at all this irrational behavior that's going on. And you know what? It's all, and I'm gonna hit it back again. Greed. What else? Phobia and fears.
Sure.
Greed, phobia, and fears. And part of greed is that power. Just wanting to have power, regardless of it's legitimate or not legitimate. And that's a part of it, right? But the problem with illegitimate power is there is a historical precedence for people that want to unjustly grab for power. It's called an authoritarian style of government, a dictatorship. And how does that always play out?
Not too good, according to the history.
So be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
You might just get it. And you might get the repercussions from that. You know, it's a whole lot of people that thought they had the ability and the power to storm the Capitol. Now look at them. Sooner or later, the United States is going to get tired of the Trumps, the Marjorie Greens, the McCarthys, sooner or later. And it's a historical precedent for it, even in our country. What happened to the Jim Crow laws? And all the people that said that, no, we're not going to do this and we're going to do that. And these folks can't go to certain schools and all that. What happened to it? It got addressed. It got dealt with. Now, it manifested in other ways, but, you know, what happened to it?
Yeah.
This is just a new version of that. It just put a new face, different time, same situation. Except, and you know what? There were some of us back then in the day, now that I think about it, they kind of thought, well, you know, I kind of agree in that. You know, I kind of agree that, you know, we need to be separate and all that. Yeah, okay. Separate but equal was never equal. It was never equal. It was always a lie. And we've always had those elements within our history. And you know what? Eventually, it gets dealt with. And that's what I think they're scared of, because they know eventually it's going to be dealt with. They don't have the numbers. The power is dwindling. They can't just say something that was the way it is and then, you know, execute.
Yeah.
And not have any have be brought up on you know, any type of accountability. So I see somewhat of a change, but just keep watching. You know, we know about the tricks, the redistricting, you know, how you manipulate the law to protect some and exploit others. the playbook is being exposed too much now. So what do they have to do? They have to have somebody bombastic up here that, is just going to be, what they call them, the Teflon Don. Well, we're going to see if that rust is starting to show. You're going to see if that rust is starting to show. I'm waiting for the judicial process to come down. He said he was supposed to get indicted yesterday. Hey, hey, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But I do believe it's coming.
I'm checking the news feed right now. Nothing came across yet.
Yeah, well, they did say that the special prosecutor has some evidence that he's broken some laws. You think? There's in fact, for me, I don't want to see nothing else except that we're in process with this indictment.
Yeah.
Whichever one you want, pick one, anyone. It's time to put up or shut up for me. I don't want to hear not another thing. I don't want. I have to watch it because I got to be up on. I'm in, the news and all that. But I'm kind of tired of these little tidbits of this. We've got another thing. We got another thing. Look, do something. If you're gonna be about it, be about it. Hey, some of our people from Missouri, show me. Show me. Okay. We already, common sense. What? Trump is a crook. Really? That's not news anymore. You know what I'm saying? Trump may have broken some laws. Really? That's not news anymore.
Yeah, the only thing I'm seeing right now is what's going on is the grand jury, I guess they coming together, and I guess a vote gonna go on today or tomorrow, according to the CBS, but they're putting out right now. And in other words, it could be as early as Friday that he'll be indicted, according to what I'm reading right now.
Well, when I see it, then we could, this man has
now to our ABC News
has been here. Look, I'm looking at it right now.
Investigation into Donald Trump over those classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago.
He got so much. It's just amazing to me. And this is the part this I'm a little. It's going to be interesting. Never in the history of our country has a front-running candidate been awaiting charges like this. Never has this happened. So my question is, what's going to happen when he does get indicted? What's going to happen to this Republican Party, everybody got all their chips in, when this man does start to go down? And okay, so you start tearing up the country. Okay, how long do you think they're going to let people tear up the country? Or the other thing, put a run on, the other thing I heard about, they want to put a run on the banks. So you want to shut down the banking system. Who do you think that's going to hurt more?
Yeah.
You're going to cut off your own foot to spite somebody else. Look.
And be mad because you can't get to the bank.
Yeah. Oh, we got a message on here. What happened to the broadcast? I don't know, something changed or whatever.
Broadcast? It's still going.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, somebody just got a message that something happened to the broadcast. I don't know.
No, I'm still live. Everything's still live.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, it's gonna be an interesting time. It's gonna be an interesting situation. I will say, just be aware of your surroundings. And just, I'm not saying change a lot about what you're doing at this point, but when he does get indicted, I would, keep my head on the swivel and watch for being in large crowds and all that. Don't be a soft target.
Yeah.
Don't be a soft target, and look up what that means. Because we don't know. I mean, we know that there's a lot of irrational people out there that are following alternative facts or whatever the case may be, are suffering from the three: greed, phobia, and fears. So just act accordingly. I'm not saying live in fear, but I'm saying be prepared.
I remember when Martin Luther King was shot and killed, my mom called the house, told all of us stay in the house.
Mhm.
But she didn't know what was going to happen. Just stay in the house. That's all she said. And we did. We kept our butts in the house till they came home from work. We watched everything on the news, what was going on. And she said, I don't want y'all venturing too far from the house.
Yeah.
Because no telling. So it's basically the same thing is going to happen here, but nobody got shot and killed. It's just he's going to jail and it's going to be a ruckus over that.
Well, you know, again,
Somewhat of a ruckus. I think now there's a lot of smart people say, wait a minute, we see what happened on January 6th. I don't think we want to go that route this time around because number one, you're right. It's going to hurt the Republican Party if they get out there and show their butts.
it is. And I think some people are smart enough to realize that that's going to be a setup for the Republican Party because their platforms that they run on a lot of time they're the party of law and order. They're the party of, you know, unless it relates to them, right? You know, then they can do what they want to do, but everybody else, they better be, you know, following the law and this, that, and the other. But again, you know, I think there are some good people on each side of, you know, there's some people that want to be good, but their party has been misled. And then there are some other people that on the other parties that, you know, want to be good, but their parties are playing off of, you know, some false information or not including all the information as well. So I think common sense, we talk about that all the time. Common sense, do your research. What does it feel like? You know, what does it feel like?
Yeah.
You know, and if you're going to act on something, the cavalry isn't coming for you. You know, the cavalry didn't come for the people at January 6th. The cavalry is not coming for people that get out there and do the wrong thing. If you want to be a martyr and fall on the sword for somebody, why fall on the sword for somebody like this? I just can't believe how many people are willing to throw their lives away, throw their careers away. There was one of the people that are right here from San Antonio, Texas, that was in the Capitol. He's a retired Air Force personnel, and now he's charged with what conspiracy or sedition, whatever they're charging these folks with.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is going to happen to his benefits?
Cut. That's all I would say.
Work 20 years. I don't think there's a Trump retirement fund that, you know, hey, you do something stupid for me, I'll go ahead and pay. I don't think he's cutting no checks. He's not cutting no checks for Cohen. He's not. Where's Giuliani at? Is he still alive? Is he? He's still
around. He's hiding.
Oh Lord, man! All these people that threw away their legacy, their careers, their pensions, but this man that don't give about them.
Right.
What do we call it? A cult. The more I watch it, the more I man.
Now see, you said cult. Remember the talk show we had a few years ago? We took a break and I sort of set Joseph up for this.
You sure did.
I asked Joseph, can you give me the definition of a cult? And he did. And I turned around, isn't that what we have going on right now?
You know, we've laid some things out there for people to see. Some of the comments that we've gotten, and I appreciate everybody that listens and their feedback, but, you know, do something with this information. You know, talk to some folks. Because here's the thing. Being polarized is dangerous because people are then just talking to folks that think like them. I embrace the opportunity to talk to anybody that doesn't think like me. Only difference is you don't have to come with your facts. That bottom degree down there is political science. So yeah, I can go and go into Montesquieu, the spirit of the laws, John Locke, you know, I can go into the social contract. I can go to the Federalist Papers. I can go there and talk about how far off the benchmark we are right now when it comes to the democracy and the founding principles of this country. And either we're going to embrace those principles for everybody at some point, or we're going to continue to keep bastardizing them and only allowing a group of people. And that's the secret little call of Make America Great Again. He wants to go back to the time where the freedoms of this country only belong to a select few, and they can hold it as a carrot to everybody else. Them days are over. Those days are over. Those folks got to understand that time is up. Again, I said it on the show before last, I'll say it again. A country will either evolve or die. We've got some wolves at the door. Look at what's going on with China and Russia right now. Look at what's going on with North Korea. They're solidifying some type of inverse of NATO. You know, and back when we were little, we used to watch the Super Friends and all that. There was a Justice League and there was a League of Doom. What, remember that?
Yeah. Yes.
So the League of Doom is definitely forming its alliance, and we sitting over here fighting amongst ourselves. In fact, some of us are starting to act like the League of Doom. So there is a consequence for being fragmented as a country. Where is our morals? Where is our identity as a people? What happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What happened to every man that's created equal? I know the history. Not everybody is considered a man, but I think that's been covered about now, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not, because we're still saying Black Lives Matter. But we forget about that. We forget about the time where people of color weren't even considered a man 100%. And they're still trying to marginalize our votes in places like Alabama and other places. So when you take the backdrop of Black Lives Matter and look at it in the context of the history of this country, that's why they don't want you to read. You know, that's why they don't want you to read. They don't want you to grab a book like A City Within a City. So you can see the Black freedom struggle in places like my hometown, Grand Rapids, Michigan. They don't want you to know that there was a systematic thing in place called redlining, that my grandparents and other families like the Adams, the triplets, you know, the Franks, that broke that red line and were exploited to the tune of right now with interest probably about $284,000. Yeah, I did the math. See, that's the problem. When you have you know, education, you can go back and do that research. They don't want you to do the research because there is a dollar amount. And I think the dollar amount as of last year was about $6.5 trillion that was owed to those freed slaves that were promised 40 acres and a mule. 6.5 trillion. That was last year. So that number's gone up.
Yeah.
That's what they're fighting against. That's what they're fighting against. They're fighting against us recognizing how much was stolen from us and how much is continuing to be taken from us and what we're really struggling with. And the psychological effects. Imagine the psychological effects of slavery. And it's still manifesting itself today in professional sports, in entertainment, still going on.
Yeah.
Now, that's what's real. But like Maya Angelou said, still we rise. There's something about this spirit that you can't break. That's why they went and got us. They knew we were strong people. And, you know, we still going to be that. Amen. But now we just need to put a little more to it. You know, we need to put a little more to it. And not just be smart, but, you know, we need to learn something. I will say this. I learned something about these Republicans. They will stick together no matter what. They will stick together no matter what. Why is Santos still even allowed in D.C.? George Santos.
Yeah, that's a good question.
He done lied about everything, I think he even lied about his DNA, didn't he? I know you could lie about your DNA.
I
I don't know. I don't even know. He done lied so much, man. I'm wondering, is he even human? Is he an alien? Who is really there? You know what I'm saying? He done lied about everything. His religion. He done lied on. He done put his mom out there. You know, his mother passed away, right?
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah, it's sad, man. But they still kept him in place. They still keeping him in power. Why? Because they need him in that seat.
Vote. Yep, they
They
need
need his vote. Man, we see y'all. You know y'all on TV, right? we see you. We see you, and we see what you're trying to do. And they still sticking together, regardless of the facts. Oh, it's I don't know. And when you challenge them on this stuff, you know what they say? Well, I don't know what to believe. Okay.
Yeah, they do. They sit up there. You know, before we head out, I got to touch base on one thing. They came up with their own budget, and Hakeem Jeffries held it up and said it's just 3 pages. And all the 3 pages is have committee meetings about this, and this. No, we need a budget. We need what y'all going to do. So the whole idea is Democrats get their budget together, Republicans they're together, they meet in the middle. Well, the other side has not prepared a budget yet. They're talking how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that, but they haven't done anything yet.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand something, Ron. That's the hustle. That's the hustle. Where is the alternative to the Affordable Health Care Act, or also known as Obamacare?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that, right? Didn't 45 say there was some what did he say? He didn't use the word marvelous, he used some other word. This amazing plan or whatever he said, that was going to replace Obamacare. Still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So what these folks do is they're just a party of no. You put together a plan, you put together all this work, they just say, well, no, that's not going to work. That's not what we want to do. Well, okay, well, what's the plan? What do you want to do? Oh, well, they don't want to put it together. You know why they don't put a plan forward? Because they know if the American people really see what they're trying to do, they wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't go for it.
Exactly.
So that's what I would say. Hey, you know what? If you don't like the plan that's put forward by another party, then let's see what your plan is, right?
They don't have
if you
one.
don't have one, then you got to go forward with something. That's why we're at a stalemate now. They got the easiest job in the world. Show up and go, nay. And they go back. Yeah, we got a plan. We got this great plan. We got this thing. We got something we're going to show you.
Still waiting for it.
But they put forward a plan. No. Nay. That's all.
Except when they vote themselves a pay raise.
Now they can agree on that, right?
Yeah, they'll leave it up to us to give them pay raise. A matter of fact, they are suggest that you can't get a pay raise. Why you gonna get a pay raise and have to stay still at $7.25 an hour for minimum wage?
Look, they can't afford to give anybody else a pay raise because they're trying to get themselves a big one. Right. And so they want the money to funnel up, not down,
not filter down,
and not out. Where is the middle class? We used to have one.
It's smaller and smaller.
Used to have one, but where is it? I think, well, there's a lot of us out here, a lot of listeners that they're making good money. They're making decent money, but they're probably going to die without their house being paid off. Can't pay their kids' way through school. And right now, with inflation, barely can buy groceries.
Yeah.
And these are people with good jobs. But some of these folks still, they voting on getting themselves a raise. I don't know. How long are we going to still, are you going to allow yourself to be tricked for greed, phobia, and fear? It's working. It's working. Marjorie Green, she's selling out the hats. Look it up. Look at the hat. Look it up right now. The hat and t-shirts that she's selling called Enemy of the State. It's a trend now to be an enemy of the state.
Let's look at this. I brought this up before. They're talking about the government, the enemy of the state, all that stuff they're talking about. Duh. Look in the mirror, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You are the government.
I don't know. I mean, you know, hey, it's just amazing when you look at what's going on, where reality is, and where so many people are allowing themselves to be misled. All I can tell you is, if a person doesn't want to change and is happy being deceived, there's really nothing you can do but wait for it to get so uncomfortable for them that they want something different. So we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. You know, as long as, and I'll dare say, as long as Trump and these folks are allowed to do what they do, then there's going to be other people that see some value in allowing themselves to be deceived. So as soon as justice can roll out for people like Trump, people like Marjorie Green, whatever that's going to look like, that's when we'll start to see an awakening. You know, there's a lot of people at January 6th, they're starting to get their awakening. Like when you saw the January 6th committee, they said, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Right? No, that was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you right there on TV. Oh, well, no, I wasn't. What they're really saying is, I wasn't in the right mind. That wasn't me. That wasn't me thinking rationally. That's what they, I think, are trying to articulate, right?
Yeah. Trying.
But when is it going to start permeating to other people? Do they have to face charges before they wake up? Hope not. You know, there's a whole lot of people that, you know, you watch these little social media takes where people think that, I think some of them are thinking it's 1960 and 1950 and, you know, running up on these young folks, calling them out their name and all that, they get knocked out on the bus. You see it every once in a while.
Yeah. I'm
going to tell you right now, you better not think it's 1960 running up on these teenagers now. They'll be carrying you out of here. So I'm going to tell you right now, from what I see and what I work with, don't try it. You better go to your little rally or go to your little group and all that, because you run up on some of these youth nowadays, they're gonna lay you out. They're gonna lay you out. And oh, by the way, all these folks talking about a civil war and all that, guess what? Some of the people you coming for, they're more armed than you are.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't think it's going to be a cakewalk, because it's not. Don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. So, you know, take your country back. The only person who can say to take their country back are the Native Americans. So what you talking about? You want to take your entitlements back. That's what you want to take back. You want to take back the way that you can bastardize the law to your benefit. That's what you want to take back. Ain't going back. And we'll see how that plays out. History, like I said, countries will either evolve or die.
Amen.
Now sit there and let history play out again. A modern day Rome situation. And we got wolves at the door.
You know what the Romans said back there? To be a better place, you get rid of all the lawyers and all the politicians. That's what they said back in the days. But we have to leave it that note. Why we go over all the time, Joseph? It's so much fun.
Hey, well, you know, maybe somebody gets something from it. But I enjoy my time on here, and thanks to everybody who's listening. You know, and remember, you know, your words, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. Right? That's how we end it. And always look at what people do, not just what they say, but what they do. Right? There's a whole lot of people that pretending to be patriots, pretending to be citizens. But I took a vow back in the day against enemies foreign and domestic. And be careful what they put out there. Marjorie Greene is actually putting out there what she is, an enemy of the state. There it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Brother, appreciate you being on board. And we will talk to you down the line, sir.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. All right.